Hello, lovely lady.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm well, yourself?
All right. You
Good, good.
exhausted?
You are looking absolutely beautiful as always.
Oh, that's lovely to say.
But it's true. It's true. Now, the lovely Gayle is
Me.
me. That's right. And she has an endless curiosity for understanding people and workplaces. Gayle is a passionate and experienced learning and organisational development professional who knows that given the right environment and support, people have amazing capabilities. For Gayle, helping organisations be their best comes from bringing out the best in their people. Gayle's qualifications include a PhD in the social sciences, a graduate diploma in psychology, and certifications in several useful psychometric and personality inventories. Her books include iDevelop, How to Take Charge of Your Personal Development by Becoming a Conscious Learner, and Do One Thing and Do It Deep, How to Focus and Energise Your Workplace. She is currently working on Team Up, How to Fit Your People and Productivity. And a new keynote, Make Work Less Shit, and that's a good word, will make you laugh and make you think about how to improve your workplace. Gayle, it is always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and for allowing us to share in your knowledge and expertise. And I look forward to your presentation.
Okie dokie. So I might just share my screen if that's okay.
You may.
Okie dokie. Let's see if we can get this happening. Lovely. It's always one more button to press though, isn't there?
Oh, isn't there? Always.
Yeah. So you should be seeing my screen about now.
Yes, perfectly perfect.
Oh, good. So yes, this is our topic. So yes, there is a little language warning. This is the only word I use though, but I do like it. So here we are today at our conference. We're at the end of your conference, I believe, Rose, and there's been 3 full days, around 24 speakers and about 18 solid hours of ideas and information just flooding into your brain. Everyone must be just about exploding by now.
I am. I'm looking forward to a bottle of vodka after this.
I'm sure you are. Look, I love conferences. I love online conferences. I love in-person conferences because they really take you out of yourself in different ways. And when I'm attending a conference, it's not just the opportunity to sit in a dark room with a bunch of strangers on a bright sunny day that I love, or if it's an in-person event, the wall-to-wall sandwiches and muffins that seem to make up the staple of carb fest that is conference cuisine. I love hearing about the amazing stories, the amazing workplaces led by amazing leaders working with amazing teams, and they're achieving amazing things. I am amazed, and I'm sure you've had some people amaze you during this conference too. I remember the first time I heard this story at a conference about Costco, which we probably all know. Costco believed in investing in people, and they thought that was critical to the success of the business. A lot of people say that, but they really put their money where their mouth was. They didn't subscribe to the false economy of the least number of people at the lowest wage possible, doing as much work as they could get them to do. And there was a classic case study that I heard about where they were looking at Costco compared to Walmart's wholesale arm, which was called Sam's Club. And what they found was that Costco paid 72% higher average hourly wage by choice. No legislative imperative, they just did that. They gave 82% of their employees health insurance. And remember, this is America. They really need it there because they don't have the luxury of our healthcare system. And that was compared to around about 50% at the Walmart Sam's Club. They paid more premiums as well. 92% of the healthcare premiums were paid as opposed to 66% at Walmart. 91% of people had a retirement plan. Only 64 at Walmart, and they contributed about 56% more per employee. What they found was that turnover went down and it was on about 17% overall. But after someone had been there for a year, it went down to 6%. And Walmart was around 44%. So what that means is that the upfront investment in people actually ended up saving them money because it didn't cost them rehiring and retraining. I love hearing stories like that. As one Harvard Business Review editor summed it up, they got a very, very loyal and productive workforce because of this way of really valuing their people. I also heard about a company called Patagonia. I'm not very outdoorsy, so I'm probably not going to be using a lot of their products, but this organisation wanted to create a regenerative work environment. Now, that's an idea that's taken from agriculture, regenerative agriculture, where farmers, landholders want to leave the land better than they found it. So Patagonia wants to leave its people better than they find them. And they offer some amazing things to support their people have a great life. They give them 100% health coverage. They pay college tuition reimbursements. They have lots of things on site like yoga and fitness, but specifically childcare. They're very, very keen to make sure that mums and dads can both stay connected with their family. Lots of other perks. There's a lot of flexibility about how you work. So even in the warehouse where it gets very, very tight with schedules, there are 15 different schedules to allow for greater flexibility for people. And your schedule is guaranteed 3 weeks in advance. So you can actually plan stuff, which can be a problem in other organisations. Not that long ago, they decided to work an extra hour a day so that they could have a 3-day weekend every other week. And that's been really, really popular. And it's not just that productivity has increased, but people are reporting benefits outside of the workplace. They're reporting better relationships with their families. They're able to get more done and have more fun. Turnover in this organisation is 4%. And that compares to 27%, which is a national figure. So I love hearing about organisations like that. But then the conference ends and I step into the cruel light of day, swearing off carbs forever, and I head back to the workplace where I look around and I go, Theodore Roosevelt said the comparison is the thief of joy. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever seen epic cake fails on boardpanda.com, but comparing those stories to what I would be seeing and experiencing in my own workplaces and places that I work with did feel a bit like this. This is what we can have. This is what we do have. It's a bit sad, really. And if comparison is the thief of joy, I have to say this doesn't look like theft. It looks like a whole other level of a heinous felony. It felt like I'd walked away from a vision of workplace heaven and entered workplace hell. Now, the American sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois sums this up quite well when he says that the return from your work must be the satisfaction that work brings you. With it, life is heaven. Without it, life is hell. Well, hang on a minute, heaven and hell. I think you're being a bit harsh, Gayle. Well, putting aside what I hear in conversations with clients, with friends, with colleagues, with the guy in the news agency, with the lady at the bus stop, my own professional experience, let's look at some evidence that work might be a little bit shit. One very basic reason we work is for money. We like money, right? Fair day's work for a fair day's pay, or 80 cents in the dollar if you're a woman. And when we feel that we deserve an increase to our wages, it's not uncommon to hear that any increase in salary requires a matching increase in productivity. But a US study shows that over the last 40 years, Frontline employees have lifted productivity by 61.8%, but their pay has increased by 17.5%, while CEOs' remuneration increased 940%. That's shit. A key outcome measure for organisations is the Employee Engagement Index. This score represents the level of commitment to the organisation and its goals. It's like a care factor, and a really high score indicates better outcomes for the people who work there and for the business itself. Now, the good news is that globally, the workplace engagement score has been increasing. Finally, we can proudly say that 1 in 5 people are engaged at work. They feel they like what they do. They feel they have something to be proud of. This is a world score, and I have to say that it's a little lower in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah, that's a bit shit. Workplace stress is on the rise. This survey asked people, did you experience the following feeling a lot of the day yesterday? With 44% of workers surveyed saying that they had experienced stress. 40% were worried a lot of the time. Just under 1 in 4 was sad, and over 1 in 5 were angry for a lot of the day. That's shit. And just to give you our Australian perspective there, we're a little more stressed, but we're not quite as worried, sad, or angry. But I think the pandemic has given us a little bit of a shake-up. It has us reconsidering work. People are reassessing what's important and questioning how, when, and where they want to work. And this has led to some interesting workplace trends that you've probably noticed. We hear people are leaving their jobs like lemmings over a cliff, moths to a flame. Okay, I can't come up with a good metaphor, especially one that doesn't seem to hurt animals. So you know what I mean. Possibly not quite as much of a thing in Australia as it was in the US and the UK, but with there's still lots of mobility in the workforce here. And with the current workforce shortages, we're seeing a lot of people leaving if they're not happy. So 1.3 million people changed their job in Australia during the year ending February 2022. That's 9.5% of all employed people, 1 in 10. And if they're not leaving, you might have heard about quiet quitting, a phenomenon started on TikTok apparently, where people share that they're just doing what's required at work and no more. Although if you're announcing it on social media, I'm just wondering exactly how quiet you think you're being. People are angry. They've had enough of the increasing demands, the lack of fairness, and they're only going to do what's required. But shouldn't what's required be what's required? Then there's another phenomenon called anti-striving. This is rather than people feeling angry, this is about people who just stop feeling guilty about switching off and stopping at the end of the day. It's a change in mindset to be less ambitious and placing a lot more importance on a balanced life. All right, well, maybe this is all normal, Gayle, and we should just accept our workplace, warts and all, and stop trying to make it better or change it, because but despite all this, we really do care about how we work. This is a classic joke by George Carlin. Oh, so you hate your job? Why didn't you say so? There's a support group for that. They're called Everybody, and they meet at the bar. Oh. But we do care. We care because jobs pay us money, which is really handy for living in this world. We can get to buy stuff and experience things, and we have more choices about how we live. We spend an awful lot of time at work, and even when we're not at work, we tend to be talking about it a fair bit. What do you do? How are things going for you? What's shitting you at work at the moment? Our work is a really important part of who we are and how we value ourselves. And I suppose for better or for worse, it's a part of how society sees us. We make some great friendships at work, and we are social creatures, so we enjoy connecting with others in our species. Not all of them individually, but generally speaking. Work gives us purpose to do something that's meaningful, that adds value to the world, even if it's just to our world, as a part of what makes life worth living. And despite the figures for stress and distress we saw earlier, work is still a protective factor for psychological health. Those with the least positive psychological outcomes tend to be the long-term unemployed. As Oscar Wilde said, the best way to appreciate your job is to imagine yourself without one. So how bad is it where you are at the moment? What does shit look like for you? I tend to think of workplaces like a river, and they can be healthy and supporting life all around it, or they can be full of all sorts of crap that don't belong, that slows the flow and impedes the health of the river. I'd like you to think about if you could see the workplace pollution as easily as you can see the pollution in this river, would you want to work here? And would you want to do something about it? Now, to help diagnose just how shit your workplace is, I've developed a scale for you. Handy. It's like the Bristol stool chart, if you know what that is, which basically it's 7 pictures of different types of stools to measure how healthy or unhealthy your gut is. But I call mine the shitometer. Let's have a little look at it now. The first stop on the shitometer is full of shit. This is workplace hell. You are in the type of workplace where you can't get away from shit anywhere. It takes over every part of your thinking at work and at home. Even when you say out loud, I'm just going to stop thinking about this right now, you just can't. There's no let up. There's no respite. Whether it's unfair treatment or unmanageable workload, unclear expectation, a lack of support from your manager, or time pressures, you are one straw and a camel with a chronic back issue away from needing to go on long-term stress leave. You are beyond anger as your exhaustion takes hold and your confidence and your mojo are on life support. The expression, well, this is just shitful, doesn't do justice to the situation. Now, I remember being in a full of shit situation. I would drive into the car park in the morning, sit in the car and try and get out of the car. When I managed to do that, my legs wouldn't want to walk. It felt like I was moving through treacle. My body was trying to tell me, don't go in there. It's dangerous. If full of shit is like workplace hell, then just shit is purgatory. You're sick, sad, and possibly acting out because you still have enough energy to be angry. And it's a pretty severe situation, but there are still moments, albeit they rare, where you can focus on other things. There are other aspects to your life. But when thinking about your workplace, you might be hearing, wow, that's just shit. Now, a bit shit is more like earth. There are still good things happening, but it's not all hugs and puppies. And without due care and attention, it can get ugly pretty quickly. Like we'd take our eye off the ball if there was anything that important. Now, you might occasionally think or say or hear, that's a bit shit. But the crappiness is more limited. It tends to apply to specific aspects of the workplace or sometimes specific people. And there's a greater sense of possibility, a potential to get away from or find a way around the shit in your workplace. Finally, there's no shit, an expression that describes workplace heaven. Everything's going well. You are rewarded for your work. You feel challenged and supported with meaningful work to do, and you're surrounded by a great team. Now, maybe you are hearing about this from someone else, or maybe you're describing it to someone. And when that's happening, the other person will elicit a wistful or incredulous expression of, no shit. Because there's a sense of awe when your situation is so dire. You can be surprised, even a little bit jealous, hearing that other people are having a really fulfilling and joyful time at work. Let's just do a quick recap on our shitometer and reflect about where you think you're sitting in this job. Or maybe you want to reflect on other jobs. Now, not everyone deals with workplace shiticity in the same way. It's a word if I say it's a word. We all take it differently. Some people interpret the situation as their fault. They feel they're to blame. They internalise it, and that's not healthy. Now, introspection in and of itself is not a bad thing. Reflecting on the role that you played in a situation helps you find your way through it. You can see what worked, you can see what didn't work, what you could learn and do better next time. It's an important part of our growth and our learning. But when you take in things that are beyond your control and you listen to people who need someone to blame, you can start to lose your mojo big time. I see this in people who are stymied at work by poor managers or bad relationships. There's too much to do. There isn't any progress. There's messy systems. There's layers and layers of pointless bureaucracy. The lack of confidence that this brings starts a negative spiral that makes you less effective and can really impact your mental and physical health. The very opposite response is to take it out on anyone and everyone around you, and not just at work. You'll take this puppy anywhere. Frustrations boil over and result in aggressive and blaming behaviours. This is toxic to the workplace. It's completely unacceptable. Regulating your emotions is the job of every big grown-up person. Now, it's fine to feel angry. It's fine to feel frustrated. It's fine to tell people about it. But don't add to the shit in the workplace by being one. Find another way. It may be understandable, but it's still unacceptable. Now, rather than take it in and damage yourself or take it out and damage others, there are times when things are so bad that there doesn't seem to be any other option than to get out of there and just take off. Sometimes it's the only rational response. When it's impacting on your health or when your values are being compromised, it's probably time to think about moving on. Dropping the mic every time things get a bit tricky, that's not a great idea, because we grow by dealing with the tough stuff. That's part of life. So if you decide that you're going to take off, just remember these two things. The grass isn't always greener, and you'll be at the next place you work at. So have you learned from the nightmare you left so that it's not going to come back and haunt you again at your new workplace? Are you able to bring the best you to your new place? Another approach is not to blame yourself or everyone else or simply take off. This time you're going to lean in to the shitty situation because maybe you can do something about it. You can do something positive and productive to make things better for you, for your co-workers, and even for the business. Now, sometimes the situation you find yourself in is like dealing with, so rusted on that it's like dealing with a barnacle on a whale's ass, which is just an expression I really like. It seems impossible, but maybe there's one thing that can make a difference, even a small difference. So start asking some questions. Talk to people positively and respectfully about what's happening. Maybe they feel the same, or maybe they can bring a completely different perspective that shows the problem in a whole new light. You can come up with an idea. What can be done? Is there a way to test your theory? Do an experiment. Find out who could support you in this and ask yourself, is this an ask permission or seek forgiveness sort of scenario? And look, even if you try and you fail and you decide that it's probably really better if you just take off, then it's probably good that you gave it a shot. You never know what you might learn about the situation or yourself that could be really, really handy for the future. Or who's paying attention to your efforts to improve things? So what can we do? We're just going to go through a couple of things that we could do. And the first one, when you're in a shit show, stop piling on. Don't be one. Keep it together. Now, I can't believe I'm going to say this because it's really just a bit too cliched, but you need to be the change you want to see. It's not okay to lose your shit. That's why it's really, really important that you take care of yourself. You manage your self-care, you manage your health, your emotions. That's the job of being a human. You can't outsource all of that. It's ultimately your responsibility. Now, sometimes I notice that, or I get a suspicion that I might just be taking the express into shit down. So I horrify myself by looking at Cartman's drama triangle. It's usually horrific because I find I'm on it, and that's just a little bit frustrating. Now, when I first heard about the drama triangle, I thought it was where reality television contestants went to die. Okay, well, they don't die there. They just vanish mysteriously. That's not what it is, though. On the drama triangle, you're moving around from being one of these three things. So I have to ask myself, am I being a victim at the moment? Am I looking for someone to save me? Am I just giving my power away? Sometimes I ask myself if I'm being a whiny little biatch. Am I taking it in? Or am I being a persecutor? Am I being a bully? Am I micromanaging or gossiping? Am I taking it out on other people? Or am I being a rescuer, which is a bit of a favourite of mine? Riding up on my trusty steed, ready to step in and save the day, which virtually tells everyone else that they're pretty much incapable. Now, when I find myself there, I really quickly need to do this jaunty little backflip into Ted, or the empowerment dynamic. I need to look at when I'm persecuting, can I move that into challenging? Can I depersonalize it? Can I make sure that I'm working on the ideas in the situation and not on the person? I can still have my say. I can still voice my concerns, but I just do it in a better way. Rather than rescuing someone, can I coach them? Let people take care of their own shit, but you can help them get there themselves. And this relieves you of the responsibility, and you can channel your desire to help, which is a good thing, but into a better form. And rather than being a victim, just take control a tiny little bit. Think about what it is that you want. What's going to get you just one step closer? because most of the time you're stronger than you think. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's someone else. And this happens a lot. You discover you work with a total ass. Okay, well, I've got some really, really bad news for you. Remember what we just talked about? You keeping your shit together? Well, for me, that rules out a whole lot of stuff that I'd really, really like to do sometimes in a specific situation or sometimes to a person. Yeah, I'm not always lovely. It takes so much effort to be the reasonable grown-up all the time. If they would just stop being such a shit, everything would be okay. And look, that's as it may be. But there's only one thing you have control over, and that's you and what you do. I know it sucks. But you just have to work with this person. You don't have to become BFFs and braid each other's hair. Now, let me tell you a story that puts me in a particularly bad light. Just a warning there. But it may be instructive. My mum and my sister love buying presents. They love shopping. They like buying lots and lots of little gifts and wrapping them up and putting them under the tree at Christmas. I hate shopping. I like to buy one present, something substantial. So I try and instill this in my mum, say, just get me one thing this year, mum. You know, something like, I don't know, you could get me a new toaster or massage voucher, or how about a new Audi? But it doesn't help, because every year I rock up to the Christmas tree, put my substantial single gifts to each of my family, and there they are, 20 small things, sort of gift equivalent of a cat fridge magnet. So one year I opened my cat fridge magnet and took a look at it, just looked at my mum and said, hello, have we met? Look, every year I tell you I love cats, but I don't like cat things. And I really only want one present. So can we just knock that out? Let me show you how this worked out. I think you can imagine. So the event was I received some crappy gifts. My reaction to this was to give my lovely 91-year-old mother a mouthful. And the outcome, I got a shitty Christmas. Not ideal. We need to think about the outcome first. What's the event? I still got crappy gifts. But then I thought, you know, what's more important is that we have a lovely, lovely Christmas with my mum, because she keeps telling me we're not having that many more, but she has been doing that for a while now. So if I think that's the outcome that I want, then I just respond with gratitude and I give everything to charity. Just take it home, drop it in the box. So ultimately, I'm getting what I want. There's a moment when an event happens straight after that where you get to choose what you do, how you respond, and the outcome that that can bring. It doesn't always work out the way you want it, but it does give you a better opportunity. You're probably familiar with this beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl, that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, look, when someone or something is really sticking in my craw, I imagine it like there's a fish hook stuck under my skin and it's caught me, and people can sort of tug away at it. They can play me, reel me in with the line. And the only thing that's going to help is that I get that hook out. Sometimes you can imagine that getting a fish hook out could be pretty painful. That barb looks pretty ferocious there. So sometimes I imagine myself snipping off the barb with some super fancy snipping gadget, and then I carefully remove it. I actually do that physically. I pretend to take the fish hook out just to remind myself that I have to let go of this. Because all we can do is focus on what we can control. We can be aware of our own biases. And one of the worst things we can do is go into a conversation with me against them. Sometimes we need to stop trying to win and just get a good outcome. So know your goal. And the other really, really important thing is to be and stay curious. Now, Walt Whitman didn't say this, apparently. Be curious, not judgmental, but it's widely reported that he did. I think this is a really, really helpful mindset to have in pretty much any situation. Maybe not so much for cats, though, because apparently they can find that a bit fatal. There are a lot of other shit things that you can investigate, and some that fascinate and frustrate me are how to deal with something crappy that happens, how to influence change at work, how to focus on what really, really matters and getting rid of the other stuff out of your life, being able to speak up about things that matter in a good way, getting stuff done, and taking the time to celebrate, because we rarely do that. We tend to move pretty quickly on to the next thing that we need to deal with. So you need to examine your shit. That's not all on you. When I'm working with a coaching client, or if I'm in a team situation or working in an organisation, I want to examine these three things about the one thing that we're focused on. Only one thing at a time. If we try to do too many things, we just get overwhelmed. But if we don't start, we're just going to stay frustrated. So I like to look at what are the beliefs that we hold, and are they serving us? Do we need to adjust them? And how do we go about doing that? And there are a few ways to do that. What structures do we have in place that support us? And that could be around building habits or putting processes in place, boundaries, and even getting other people to help. And the other thing I like to look at is, do we have agency? And what I mean by that is, do we have the capacity or the time? Do we have the capability, the skills, and the autonomy to act? Now, these three things work together. Either they help you achieve your goal, or they keep you stuck and miserable. And by working deeply through one thing, we can move ourselves to where we want to be. Now, work can be shit, but it can be bliss as well. We can find ourselves in situations where we're up to our necks in it, or we can use the shit to fertilise our growth. We need to think about how we react and how we manage ourselves and our relationships and how we influence other people. But don't try and do it all at once. Do one thing and do that deep. So I ask you, what one thing will you work on to make work less shit? Thanks, Rose. You're on mute.
Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. It was absolutely perfect. I loved your slides. They're so colourful and
Thank you.
Really engaging. Loved them a lot. And yeah, and what you're saying is there is a lot of shit goes on in a workplace. even at home. And, you know, the way we deal with it on an individual level can either keep us in the shit or it can help us to grow to be better people. So thank you for sharing all of that you shared today. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that expertise with us.
You're most welcome, Rose.
It hopefully will help somebody. So yeah, that's really great. Gayle, was there anything else that you wanted to share with us? Some way that people can get in touch with you if they want to work with you? Sure,
I'm pretty easily contactable. So just gaylesmerdon.com. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to message me, or hello@gaylesmerdon.com. I work with teams on building one thing that they can do better, and that's to help them build their own autonomy and confidence. I work with coaching clients, and I do some leadership development and training as well. So if that's of any interest to anyone, I'm always happy to chat about the biz and see whether we can make work a little bit less shit where you are.
Wonderful. I've just, because I had a power outage, I've lost my background and everything. So never mind. A messy office is a good office, I reckon. Anyway, Gayle, thank you so much for your time today. And I will be chatting with you again very soon.
Yeah, indeed. Now go off and enjoy a lovely drink, Rose.
I can't.
You've had a big few days.
I have to take my husband to the hospital. He's had a medical emergency this afternoon.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
As soon as I finish here, I'm off to the hospital.
All right. Okay. I'll see you soon. Look after yourself. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.